Virgin. Beauty. Bitch. Podcast. Inspiring women to overcome social stereotypes and share unique life experiences without fear of being defiantly different. Your hosts, Christopher and Heather. Let's talk, shall we?
You may have heard, Heather and I have proclaimed 2026 the year of the B.I.T.C.H. So in our last episode, we shared our motivation and reason for this designation, but we didn't explain the acronym and how it works or what it stands for. We did that for a couple of reasons. One, we wanted you to come back. So welcome back. And two, the explanation itself actually deserves its own show. Before we start, I must reiterate and recognize that bitch is not an identity women aspire to become, at least not in the way the word has been used to dehumanize and demonize women for centuries. We get that. Our imagining of Year of the Bitch comes after hundreds of conversations with women. It comes from listening to their personal journey through betrayals and failure and suffering, but also hearing the courage it took to recover their strength, believe in it, and live by it. It's from those amazing conversations that a pattern began to emerge, a process that literally became 5 steps. B-I-T-C-H. So today, we'll share what each of those letters mean and hopefully engage you to join us in a year-long journey that might not only change your outlook on a word, but more importantly, remind you of who you are and what you are capable of in your life. If you're ready, we'll start at the beginning. And I feel like a game show host here, but Heather, what's under the letter B?
I just want to kick it off with our folks listening. You may have heard Christopher talk about that Year of the Bitch 2026 year-long journey that we're going to be going on together. And if that sounds like a big commitment, there's lots of steps along the way for you to get involved with as much time as you're able to give. So, what I've been thinking about a lot, Christopher, is, when I hear the word bitch, you've heard the word, the warning. It's something that's either hit you at one point of your life, or it's become so big in pulp culture that it's something you've really started to adopt. Just around like a brunch table, I think about girls who are calling each other, a bad bitch, or you got that bitch, or I'm that bitch, or I'm that bitch today. And so I want to say to our guests that no matter what your relationship is with this word, if this is a word that you hear and you feel like you just got punched in the gut, if this is a word that you hear and you've completely reclaimed it, if this is a word that, you still want to tiptoe around and monitor or tailor yourself in order to not be called it, no matter what your relationship is with this word, it's undeniable that it is a very powerful word and a word that's used extremely commonly in our world today and definitely throughout different centuries in different ways. So if you haven't listened to our first episode on this journey that we're taking together, I encourage you to do so, because the foundations for what Christopher and I are doing in this Year of the Bitch is to be able to take this word and perhaps all the different ways that it hits you or hits your gut and evolve it into something that meets your needs in today's world and how you want to show up in your own life. So it's an extremely exciting year for us, and I'm excited to be walking down this journey with Christopher and each one of you. So without further ado, considering that this is door number 1, we'll kick it off with B. You're a bad B. There's so many ways that we hear even this beginning letter, but for us at VBB, we got 2 B's. B is for betrayal. There's countless reports, studies, and cultural narratives that women today have more access, more visibility, better income, better education, more influence than any previous generations. But yet the question still persists. Why are you so angry, bitch? Why you gotta be so difficult, bitch? And well, few may thrive on that anger or that sentiment. A lot of women do not live there comfortably. Anger is cold and it's a lonely place, or can feel lonely. And instead, women can put lipstick on their anger and maybe even a smile or not say the things that you really do want to say. But the root of where anger for women runs deeper, it has a name. And that anger is betrayal. And I'm not just talking about somebody who's, kind of turned their back on you or done something that has wronged you. We're going to peel back the layers from childhood through adolescence into womanhood about the small cuts where you felt abandoned, used, dismissed, discarded by a lover, a friend, a family member, or maybe an entire system that you felt was meant to protect you. So now let's take that pain and stretch it across centuries, because this word has been in use since about the 1400s, and multiply it by every woman who has ever lived under the rules without her consent. There is a context of women's anger and the different layers of betrayal that we've faced. So with that understanding, B is also for beginning. And let's talk about you, a woman. The emotional, sexual, psychological stereotyping of females begin that moment when the doctor says it's a girl. And that's a quote by Shirley Chisholm. So, that first layer of betrayal that we want to uncover with you is the equality denied at birth. So women being born into a system that immediately leashes and limits us based on sex. I know a lot of women are pushing this wide open, and that's the entire point of the show, is certainly women are not standing by this any longer. But it took a long time to get here, and we're still facing it today. So before you raise your voice, you were taught to lower it. Before you asserted yourself, you were warned to be likable. Before you lead, you were told to follow gracefully and with gratitude. And before you resist, you were warned about the consequences. So the original betrayal of woman is the promise of equality in pay, in safety, in credibility, and most importantly, in freedom. So, as we kind of move through these different processes and these different layers, we're going to be diving more and more into these layers to truly shape an understanding for your personal life as an individual woman. What were those key moments of your life that you were betrayed, perhaps by yourself, perhaps by a lover, perhaps by your family, and definitely by society, so that we can use that to inform what's behind door number 2, and that being identity. Over to you.
Yeah, it's really fascinating how these things dovetail together, because betrayal and betrayals that start before we're even cognitively aware of our world, our role in it. A lot is being imprinted on us that becomes our identity, things we accept, some of them as faults. I see identity like an iceberg, right? Everyone can see the surface. They know your name, they know your face, they get to know your likes and your dislikes, your habits, your idiosyncrasies. That's the iceberg. That's the top of the iceberg that we see floating by every day. But beneath the surface, there's a lot more that maybe only your pastor, who you confess to, or your psychologist might ever discover. Right? It's things like the imprint of your family tree, for instance, right? Or past experiences of your youth that you've long forgotten, but they influence your personality nonetheless. We can go even deeper. I mean, based on your sex and your gender, like different behaviors are expected of men that are expected of women. And that also becomes part of your personality, trying to live up to those things that are expected of you. It explains why so many women struggle with things and words like worthiness and guilt and shame and not being enough. It's part of that identity of gender, which is also an identity. And it's been imprinted onto womanhood as a whole. And the fear of being called out to that identity gives others the control of women's behavior, attitude, and put so much pressure just to be perfect all the time, not to make a mistake, not to be called out. Right? There's a way actually to skirt being that bitch identity. You can adopt what's called the good girl identity. Well, where does that leave you? That's an identity that you're living the life to please others, and you're never looking at yourself, never considering your needs, always wanting to make life better for those around you. You need to be good all the time. That is a lot of pressure. What this process about identity is that inside that iceberg, there's an ice cube size person that beget all these things. We have to find that ice cube that you once were. Like, what's the truth of that identity? That's what this process is about. It's about peeling back, chipping away, understanding who you are, what motivates you, what you like, what you actually do like, what you actually dislike. It's about finding those gems that make you who you are. So that's what the journey of identity is about. It's a very big topic. It's a large topic, and we'll be having lots of conversations just on that topic alone, trying to decipher it and pull it apart so you can identify the differences of what you are being pushed into being and how you present yourself as opposed to how you want to be. That it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be disappointed. It's okay to have opinions that are not the norm, like trying to fit in. It's about unraveling all those things. So that's what identity is about. But the thing about identity is, before it can really take a hold, comes the next letter in this process, and that is T for trust.
Beautiful. And, Christopher really leaned into the importance of the I, and I want to lean into that a bit as well, because it really is the foundation for the next 3 steps. So the different access points that we'll have for you as our listeners or those deciding to come on to this journey with us. I mean, we've already had such fantastic conversations with people around this to give it a completely reshaped possibility. So, I mean, once you've stripped back all of these different pieces of what were societal prescriptions or things that were asked of you, we spoke on this in a previous episode to say for centuries or longer, women's worthiness was based on relational value. What you did as childbearing, what you did to support your partner, what you did to support your family. And, we are in many areas living in a world where women are really taking their own ambition, their own autonomy, and their own agency as the most important thing for their life, and to do so within the web of love and kindness that speaks to them. So, when we've gone through these many different ways to get a sense of your authentic self, then we're moving into how to trust that authentic self. So if betrayal shaped identity, then trust can restore it. Not trust in others, but trust in yourself. To trust yourself is to create the kind of self that you will be happy to live your whole life with. That's by Golda Meir. And the most radical thing a woman can do is to really trust who she is. So after, I'm sure many of you at different layers of your life or different times, maybe even a lifetime of second guessing yourself, after being taught that it's better to be liked than to be equal or to be real, and after learning that self-trust earns punishment, trust becomes the real turning point, and your center of gravity shifts from out there back to in here. So not everyone is going to welcome this new version of you who speaks clearly, sets boundaries, and no longer apologizes even for existing, And that woman is dangerous to systems that relied on your silence. So other people are going to test you. Other people are going to shame you. Other people will try to mold you back into what made their lives easier, the version of you that made their lives easier. And when they do and you don't bend, they may call you a bitch. But our challenge is to let them. Which brings us to door number 4.
Which is C, which is change. We all say we want to change. We want a better life. We want more money. We want richer relationships. We all want. But are we willing to change to get it?
The will to change.
Damn, can't you just give it to me? Can I just win the lotto?
Right? This delayed gratification thing. Well, no.
I want it now. I see change. When I look at change, and my experience of change is there are 2 levels of change. There's surface change. That's where you determine, okay, this is what I want to achieve. This is what I need to get it. You plan it out. You go through the steps, and change happens because you've gone through the steps to make that change reality. But no, most of us, that's too much work. We go the other way. That's when life says, take that, slaps you behind the head with a 2x4, and nothing happens. So
Old
life
patterns
gets
come back and you're
exactly,
back to square one.
exactly. So life has to pick up something heavier and hit you harder. And that's when we go rock bottom. That's when you are in a space where nothing seems worth living for. Unfortunately, from the conversations we've had with many people, that's when change can actually happen. When you're out of the way and you have no choice and survival depends on you changing, that's not the kind of change we want to go through over and over again. This process, and what we are offering, is changing from the surface, about identifying this identity that you have found and the change that requires for you to live the kind and way that you want your life to be, to not be influenced by things that would trigger you, like a word that would be used against you if you spoke your mind or did what you believed was right. To allow that change to happen in your life, but to do it cognitively, to do it purposely. That's what the change we're talking about involves. And that's the process we are going to walk through, and again, have conversations around to understand how people have done that, how they've made that change from the surface, not have to go to rock bottom to make that happen. And that change, right? It depends on another word. What would that word be?
Last but certainly not least, probably because it's an H and that's what my name starts with. I got a fondness for the word H. But H for VBB in the year of the bitch is for healing. And so, we've talked about those 4 other layers that we've gone through, and, understanding the self of you that shows up because she's been molded to show up in the ways that others want her to. And instead, you've met through this process your authentic self, your identity when all those things are peeled back. And so the change that you make is to be able to live that authentic self day in and day out, even if, or especially when there's pushback and people want to revert you into the one that was easier to deal with, quote unquote. So, throughout these stages, but especially as we kind of land in that change and seeing the benefits of this truly living your authentic self and being able to speak to that. H is for healing. healing is not about erasing the past, it's about integrating it. And we've named betrayal, we've uncovered the identity, and we're learning how to trust that new identity. And you continue to show change. So, healing is where it all becomes sustainable. It's the forgiving of yourself for the silence or for the survival or for shrinking. It's about finding peace, not in perfection, and to really feel that in your body, where boundaries become doors rather than walls or shutting opportunities out. Your voice steadies, and you're no longer living to acquire a proof of worth from others. Healing is about knowing that you were never broken. Perhaps you were buried. And collectively, now it's our time to rise.
Healing is, we think of healing in the sense of our body sometimes, that we had something cut or something that is irritating us, or we're sick and we recover and we're healed. Okay, onwards we go. But
Mm-hmm.
healing in this sense is everything that you do to honor this identity that you've discovered, the trust that you have in that identity to go forward in your life as this person. Every step of that is healing. Even when you acknowledge the betrayals of history, of current day, that acknowledgement is a form of healing. So healing goes through every step of this process. And the most important thing is the healing never ends, because you don't stop where you are. Healing is not stopping. It is continuing to grow. The growth is healing. That's how we frame healing, and that's how we see healing in this process of B.I.T.C.H. So these things all come together, work together to create something amazing, which is you.
Mm-hmm.
Can you join us in that?
And if there was a part of this that really spoke to you, it grabbed a piece of where you want to be going or perhaps where you're at, and you want to share that with other people, we're going to have a lot of opportunities. But Christopher, would you highlight one of the things that could help them with the next step of getting to know these letters a little better?
So the podcast, we've pretty much turned the podcast over to this process. So every show that you join us from here moving forward, we will touch on one of these, if not more, of these processes as they have impacted each individual we speak to. We will touch on these topics to get a sense of how these words have impacted their lives. So it's not just giving you theory, it's giving you actual results in how women have taken these steps that now spell out this amazing word, this changed and evolved this word from what it has been to what it can be to each and every woman who wants more from who they are, or what they can contribute, and how they can serve, including serve themselves.
Sounds delicious. Let's do it.
We're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
And if you want to kind of take a look at what we've just shared here, we are going to be making it available in a written format. So if you want to take your time to kind of chew on what these words could mean to you, we're going to have that available for you soon as well.
Very, very soon. There are bigger plans that we have that we're still working on. So we encourage you to stay with us most of all, we encourage you to contribute and to get involved and to give us your feedback, because that is part of the process as we go along.
Love it. All right. Year of the B.I.T.C.H. Hello.
Yes, here we go. And you have been listening to
The Virgin.
The Beauty.
And the bitch in her year.
Absolutely. Come join us. Find us, like us, share us. Give your friends an opportunity to join this journey with you.